Hi everyone, welcome back to the second video in this series. Now I'm going to start some experiments. So let me come across where I've got a bit of space and this will probably do. Let's keep track of how many trials we do in this experiment. Let's just for now set up a table with 10 rows. Now what are the things that are happening? Well, I have 3 different coins that are being thrown in the air. So I'll need a space to store the outcome for each of these. Now, how will I simulate head or tail? I'll use random numbers. And there's a lovely formula. Now, if I just type random, I get decimal values between, and every time I press the F9 key, which is what I'm doing now, it recalculates the formulas in the spreadsheet, so the random number changes. Now those random numbers are always between 0 and 1. Not particularly good at simulating the toss of a coin, which is either a head or a tail. So there's a better formula. And if I start typing again, you'll see this one called random between. Specifies a random number between the numbers that you ask. So that's better. Then it says, so I double clicked on that and it started to fill it in, bottom and top. What if I just go 0 and 1? Now, every time I press F9 this time, we're getting a lot in a row there, and there's a 0. So I'm going to designate that 0 equals a tail, and that 1 equals a head. Now what I've just typed up there is only for my benefit. The computer couldn't care less. Let me copy this formula across to the other 2. So on my first game, I got 1 head. That would be a loss. If I recalculate, second game, there's 2 heads. I would win 50 cents. I would keep the $1 that I bet, and I would win 50 cents as well. 2 heads, hey, I just won another 50 cents. 3 heads, I just won $1.50. I feel like I'm lucky. I won another $1.50. Oh, I've just lost. So there's $1 gone. There's a 50-cent win. Now, I could keep doing this over and over again, but it's very difficult to keep track of. So let's copy those formulas down there. And now I've just played 10 games all in one go by having 10 rows in my table. What I would really like to know here is the outcome of my experiment. I would like to know whether this was a win or whether it was a loss. Now the way to do this is simply to add the numbers in those 3 cells. Because 1s represent heads, then if, in this case, the sum of those is 0, that means 0 heads. If the sum equals 3, that means all 3 were heads. If the sum equals 2, that means 2 of them were heads. So using 0s and 1s was a clever strategic move, because computers are so much better at working with numbers than working with text. I can simply add the numbers to get the outcome. But what I would really like to know is whether these were a win or whether they were a loss. That's what I'd really like to know. So we can just look down there and see, but it would be so much nicer if I could somehow get the computer to decide for me, and I can. The Excel spreadsheet has a command called if. So I double click on that and it starts to fill it in for me. I need a logical test. Aha. Well, if this number here is a 3, and I do that by saying, I click on the cell, if that equals 3, I put a comma. Now I have to put what I want to be displayed in the cell in the event that that test is true. And what I would like displayed is the following text, 3H. I put a comma. Now I have to do the value if it's false. Now, if it's false, it might be a two-head win or it might be a loss, mightn't it? So I can put another if statement inside the first if statement. Now I'm up to the logical test. Well, perhaps that cell J5 equaled 2, in which case I want to display the text 2H. Now I've tested if it was 3. If it was 3, I'd get 3H and that would be the end of the formula. If it's not a 3, it jumps down to here and it tests to see if it's a 2. If it is a 2, it displays the 2H and then it stops. But if it's not that one and it's not that one, then it must be a loss. And I don't really care whether it was a 1 or a 0, both of them are a loss. Now be careful when finishing the formula. Do you notice I typed that bracket and it turned red to match that one? But there is another bracket, open bracket there. I need a second one. Now that should work. And there's my outcome. I've got an outcome of the sum of the numbers is 2. Then that was a 2-head win. That's a win. Let's copy those down. Of course, every time we copy formulas or do something, the random numbers regenerate. I might just put a little bit of light colour behind those. So they're the coin tosses, they're the outcomes, and that's whether I won or whether I lost. Now, what I would really like to know is the return to the gambler. Once again, I can use conditional statements to do this. I think I might, because in the event of a 2-head win, the return is 50 cents. In the event of a 3-head win, it's $1.50. In the event of a loss, obviously the return is minus $1 for that particular player on that particular game. So let's do an if statement again. If, now my logical test this time will be, I could do the same thing. Let's do that. If J5 equals 3, then, now this time I'm not going to type numbers, I'm going to put a cell reference. If it was a 3-head win, the payout is the number $1.50 from there. I'm going to press the F4 key now so that dollar signs appear around the reference C4. When I copy this formula down the page, I do not want the C4 reference to move down. Any 3-head win should always be the payout of $1.50. I'll put my comma. Here comes the nested if statement. So if J5 equal 2, then I want it to be a 50-cent payout. Once again, the F4 key. The other outcome, if it wasn't one of those, it's a $1 loss. Again, the F4 key. Close the first set and close the second set of brackets. Now, what have we got there? A 2-head win gives a 50-cent return. And I think I would like that to be formatted as money. And I'll even go to choosing the positives are black and the negatives are red. Let's copy that down. There we go. So we can see what's happening in our 10 games. This could be 10 different players playing the game at the same time, or probably easier to think about it as a single player who's played the game 10 times in a row. That's probably more like it. Now, we can see that in 10 short games, the player has won quite a lot of times and lost only a few times. Let's write down this is the total. Actually, I don't think I'll type it up there. I think I'll move off to the side. So this will be the total. Notice that every time I type something, it changes. Equals the sum of these numbers. Look at that. 10 games, our player has ended up losing $1. How much did they spend to play the 10 games? Well, they bet $10 to play 10 games. So the house has collected $1 If the player lost $1, the casino collected $1 out of the $10 that they played. They got $9 back. So that's a 10% house edge, not too far off the expected. Let's try a few more. Oh, that was a bad one for the player, wasn't it? Another bad one. Oh, the player won $4 that time out of 10 games. Bad for the casino, good for the player. Now, down by 50 cents, up by 50 cents. Oh, exactly even. So no profit at all for anybody. Down by $3. Now, this 10 trials is a good start, but we can do a lot better. And the improvements to this will be the topic of my next screencast. Thanks for watching.